Imagine for a moment that you are the emperor of Rome in the 2nd century AD. You have absolute power over millions of people, control vast territories stretching from Britain to North Africa, and your decisions can change the course of history. Now, imagine that, amidst all these overwhelming responsibilities, you find time to reflect deeply on life, write intimate thoughts about how to be a better person, and develop a philosophy that still transforms lives today, nearly 2,000 years later. This is not a fictional story. This is the real story of Marcus Aurelius, the last of Rome's 5 good emperors, a man who taught us that we can all and should behave like emperors of our own worlds. Marcus Aurelius was not born expecting to be emperor. In fact, he was a young scholar, passionate about Stoic philosophy, who preferred books to battles, reflection to military conquests. But when fate placed him on the throne of the Roman Empire in 161 AD, he did not flee from responsibility. Instead, he did something extraordinary. He decided to govern not just an empire, but primarily himself. During his military campaigns on the empire's frontiers, especially during the wars against Germanic tribes, Marcus Aurelius developed the habit of writing personal reflections. These writings, which he never intended to publish, were exercises in mental and spiritual self-discipline. He simply called them to himself. Today we know this work as Meditations, one of the most influential texts in Western philosophy. What makes Marcus Aurelius so fascinating is not just the fact that he was a powerful emperor, but how he used that power. He understood something that most people never comprehend, that true power does not come from controlling others, but from mastering oneself. And this is exactly what he teaches us about becoming emperors of our own worlds. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This phrase from Marcus Aurelius perfectly summarizes his central philosophy, the distinction between what is under our control and what is not. Think about how many times you worry about things that are completely beyond your reach. Traffic, weather, other people's actions, world events, or even past events that have already happened. Marcus Aurelius realized that wasting mental energy on these things is not only useless, but also destructive to our well-being. Instead, he proposed that we focus all our attention and energy on the things we can actually control: our thoughts, our reactions, our choices, our values, and our actions. This simple shift in perspective is revolutionary because it transforms you from a victim of circumstances into an active agent of your own life. When you behave like the emperor of your world, you are not trying to control everything around you. You are exercising absolute control over the only territory that truly belongs to you, your own mind and your own actions. It is a much more real and sustainable power than any form of external control. Marcus Aurelius knew that governing an empire began with governing himself. He developed specific practices to maintain control over his thoughts and emotions, practices that anyone can adopt today. The practice of morning reflection. Every day, Marcus Aurelius began with reflections on how he should behave. He reminded himself of his values, mentally prepared for the day's challenges, and set clear intentions about how he wanted to act. This practice of starting the day with purpose and mental clarity is something anyone can implement. The evening examination. At the end of each day, he reviewed his actions, thoughts, and reactions, not to punish himself for mistakes, but to learn from them. He asked himself, how did I behave today? What can I do better tomorrow? Where did I allow negative emotions to take control of me? The practice of presence. Marcus Aurelius constantly emphasized the importance of being completely present in the current moment. He wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." He understood that real power only exists in the present moment. It is only here and now that we can truly act and make choices. The cult of virtue. For Marcus Aurelius, being emperor of your own world meant prioritizing virtues above all else: wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. These were not abstract ideas for him, but practical qualities that guided his daily decisions. One of Marcus Aurelius's most powerful lessons is his famous phrase, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This revolutionary perspective completely transforms how we deal with life's challenges. Instead of seeing obstacles as problems that prevent us from achieving our goals, Marcus Aurelius teaches us to see them as opportunities for growth, learning, and character development. Each difficulty becomes a chance to practice virtues like patience, perseverance, creativity, and courage. This is not a naively optimistic view. It is a practical and powerful strategy for maintaining control over your response to life circumstances, no matter how challenging they may be. Marcus Aurelius taught that our experience of life is determined not by events themselves, but by how we interpret these events. He wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." This lesson is especially relevant today when we are constantly bombarded with information, opinions, and external stimuli. As emperors of our own worlds, we need to develop the discipline of consciously choosing how to interpret and respond to these external influences. For example, if someone unfairly criticizes you at work, you can choose to interpret this as a personal attack that ruins your day, or you can see it as an opportunity to practice patience and maybe even learn something useful about how you are perceived by others. The situation is the same, but your experience of it is completely different based on how you choose to interpret it. Marcus Aurelius constantly practiced this discipline of perception, always looking for ways to reinterpret negative situations in ways that preserved his peace of mind and helped him grow as a person. One of the deepest themes in Marcus Aurelius's reflections is the impermanence of all things. He wrote extensively about how everything in life is temporary: our successes, our failures, our pain, our joy, even our own lives. At first glance, this may seem depressing, but Marcus Aurelius saw impermanence as profoundly liberating. If everything is temporary, then we don't need to desperately cling to good things or despair completely over bad things. We can appreciate positive moments without fear of losing them, and endure difficult moments knowing they too will pass. This perspective frees us from what Buddhists call the suffering of attachment, the suffering that comes from trying to permanently grasp things that are naturally impermanent. When you behave as the emperor of your own world, you govern with the wisdom of impermanence, making decisions based on lasting values rather than temporary circumstances. Marcus Aurelius understood that being emperor of your own world means accepting total responsibility for your life, not for the events that happen to you, but for how you respond to those events. This total personal responsibility is simultaneously frightening and incredibly empowering. It is frightening because it means you can no longer blame other people, external circumstances, or bad luck for your unhappiness or lack of progress in life. But it is empowering because it means you have the power to change your experience of life at any moment, simply by changing how you think and act. This is not a responsibility imposed on us from outside. It is a responsibility we choose to accept because we recognize it is the only way to have real control over our lives. When you accept total responsibility for your reactions and choices, you become truly free. So, how do you begin to behave like the emperor of your own world? Marcus Aurelius offers us a practical roadmap. Start each day with intention. Before checking your phone, reading the news, or diving into the day's demands, dedicate a few minutes to establishing your intentions. What kind of person do you want to be today? How do you want to respond to challenges that may arise? What values do you want to prioritize? Practice detachment. Throughout the day, when you find yourself reacting emotionally to something, practice taking a mental step back. Ask yourself, is this under my control or not? How do I want to respond to this? What would be the most virtuous response? See every challenge as training. Instead of resenting life's difficulties,